Welcome back to the Journey of You Joy podcast. Dr. Devin here, solo episode, and today's theme is the power of your joy in times of sadness. We all know that there's a lot of sadness in the world right now. It's ever pervasive. So, what a great time to be talking about how our power actually is in our joy. Our joy has immense power in general, but especially in times of sadness. And when we're not in our joy, it's not like we're adding anything to the world that is in sadness. It doesn't behoove the world for us to add more sadness to it. What behooves the world and us is when we are in our joy, that does add something magical to the sadness of the world. So we're going to dive deeper into the episode today. Hope you're excited. I'm excited to share it with you. This is Joy, the Journey of You podcast. We're your hosts, Devin,
Chris,
and Felicia.
And we're here for joy.
This podcast is your permission slip to reconnect to your inherent joy and to embrace it.
Let's fill up the cosmic joy pot together as we dive into today's episode.
Yeah, so the world is super duper focused in on darkness and sadness right now. It's a common conversation I'm having with a lot of people, whether it be clients or just friends or just people, humans. I'm just talking to humans about the sadness of the world, right? And it's not lost upon me that in many times in my life, I have had times where other people are in a state of sadness when I'm in my joy. And because, as many of you know, my mother was murdered when I was 23 years old, I've gone through sadness at a depth that it's not that I am trying to rise above the sadness or trying to eliminate the sadness. It's simply that what good does it really do to add sadness to the stew, to the recipe, right? It doesn't actually add anything different. It doesn't add anything new. It doesn't add anything of any greater value. And so recently, I actually had a clear example of this, and I was at a ceremony here in Mexico, and there's a group of people, and we were 5 or 6 of us, and we were going around the room just starting to share with how we're coming in with how are we feeling today. And 4 out of the 5 of us were in not such a good state. Everybody was really sad about what's happening in their country. And there was a grief in the room. Someone had just lost someone or reminded of someone that they lost. And I'm over here being joyful, being happy where I am at my life. And it didn't, so in that moment, I could see an older version of myself wanting to shy away from my happiness because other people were sad. And in that moment, I knew that's not the answer. And so I simply just shared in the moment of how I was genuinely feeling. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling grateful and joyful in my life of where I'm at. And what actually ended up happening is that whole ceremony is just people went through their experience, but then the next day the woman who was leading that experience said to me that she admired how much I just was leaning into my truth and my authentic state amongst other people having their experience of sadness and grief. And it's such a prime example of what happens and how impactful it is to other people when we are in our joy amongst sadness, y'all. It's one thing to be in your joy and be in your happiness when everybody else is joyful and happiness because it's a collective experience and we're all just in the same soup, right? But it is going to bring up things in us when we have sadness around us and we have darkness around us and we're the only one having any sort of sense of joy. And even if we aren't having a sense of joy, how are we going to get to our joy if we're only focused in on sadness, right? So I'm going to lead you through a demonstration to where you can get to experience this all for yourself so that you can see and feel what this is like for you through an imaginary example. And then you can obviously take this into your life from here forward, right? So what I invite you to do is get set up for coming into a journey with me. If you're driving, we can do this later, but you can imagine it too. So what I want you to do is first, I want you to imagine that there's a circle in front of you. You draw a clear golden circle in front of you. Anything inside of that circle we define you're going to experience inside of that circle. So we're going to call this circle your sadness circle, right? So we're going to step inside this circle. And I want you to notice what would happen if you were in your sadness while other people are in their sadness, but here's the kicker. You're hiding your joy. So the world is dark, everybody's sad. There's a lot of energy around darkness and sadness, and you're over here having an inkling of joy inside of you and some sort of happiness inside of you, but you're hiding it. What does that do to you, to your environment, to the world? Notice. Get a really good sense of what happens when you are just going with what the vibration around you is. You're just defaulting to what is in the field, just what the default field is. Good. Got a good sense of that? Okay. Imagine that circle washing out. Okay. Now we're going to go into a second circle. So you're going to draw your imaginary second circle. This circle is your joy circle. So you're going to step inside of this circle. And I'd love for you to get a glimpse into what happens when you are in your joy while others and the world are in sadness. What do you see first off? How do others respond to you when you're in your joyful energy? What impact do you make on other people? Even if it's nonverbal, even if it's a smile, even if it's a recognition, notice those things. Those things are big, you guys. And lastly, what I really want you to notice here is how is your energy translated out towards others or the field as a whole when you're very aware that there's sadness in the world? You're not denying it, but you're choosing to be in your joy amongst it. Yeah, how does that feel? How does that feel to you? How do you see others picking you up, receiving you? And also, how do you experience the sadness in the world when you're choosing your joy amongst the sadness? Good. Got that. If you need more time, please feel free to pause me and go through your full example and then pick it back up and press play so we can share. So for me, when I'm in my first circle of sadness, hiding my joy, honestly, it feels like the sadness comes in on me. Like I am a victim to the sadness. It's like it's just what's going to happen is that the field is full of sadness, so I'm going to be sad and there's no point in me sharing my joy. And so the whole hiding my joy, it doesn't even feel like a choice. It's just kind of what happens because I'm not actually oriented to myself in this circle. What I'm actually oriented to is I'm outside of myself in the sadness of the world. And so that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm experiencing. And then it just floods into me like it's overwhelming sadness. That's how I experience when I just hide my joy and just live in the field of sadness. And granted, there's depths to it. Like I feel depressed in my body. I feel sad. I feel like I have a stomach ache. There's more that I could go into in that. But I think you get the gist of that. Basically, I feel sad, right? Like the field is full of sadness. I feel sad. That's all I see, and that's all I experience. And then conversely, when I went to my second circle and now I see that the world is sad, but I'm joyful, what I see in that, what I experience in that is like, yes, sadness exists, but I have a greater impact. So I literally start to see my light starting to spread out to other people. I start to see people acknowledge me. So people who may not be able to fully smile when they see me walking down a street or something, but there's an eye contact acknowledgement where they're seeing something different and there's something in them that gets that acknowledgement, right? It's not always that there's a verbal, but sometimes there is. There's definitely time frames that I actually have. But when I was in this circle, it was like the unseen, untold, unspoken way that we communicate, right? So I was seeing my energy being able to translate out to others and spread my light and spread my happiness to other people. And then I see those other people being able to have their little light flickers on, and then they are able to spread a little bit more joy. So my joy has a multiplication effect to it, and it feels very natural. It just feels like that's all I need to do is I just need to focus in on myself, and that's where I can have the greatest impact. So that's what I would ask you is what are you finding about for yourself? What are you finding that when you focus in on your joy amongst the sadness, remember, we're not being delusional and thinking, oh, let's just rise above it. Let's just pretend that everything's okay. What we're doing here is we're saying, I see the sadness and I have a choice of what energy to bring forth in the world. And when you have that choice, what power does that give you? How does that feel for you to actually have choice and not have to go along with what just is in the field and what the dialogue that you're being fed to is? So how empowering, how enormously empowering and inspiring is it for you? Or how could you let it be? Could you let it be inspiring for you? Could you let it be amazing? The fact that you have power and choice in how you experience the world, but also what impact you have on the world. Can you imagine if more people in this world, if we could get this episode out to 1 million people or even 1,000 people, what impact that will have? right? I bet a number of you have heard research about how when meditators go into towns, cities, or communities and what impact they have on the field is they genuinely have a multiplication effect of high vibration energies. And this is why meditators and meditation groups in times of wars and times of need will actually go to the place that has the most danger and go spread their light through meditation. So there's all different ways that we can be spreading our light and spreading our joy. So it can be through a podcast like I am now. It could be through a song. It could be through just your presence. And honestly, that's my main invitation for everyone, for all of our listeners, is what could your presence do to this world if you were in your high vibration of joy? Because when you are in your joy, you're creating the most impact. But when you're in your joy, especially in times of sadness, that is when you have even greater impact. So, if you want to make an impact on this planet, if you want to make an impact on all the sadness and all the hatred and all the pain that's happening in this world, you got to orient to your joy, my friends. You just have to orient to your joy. And remember, when we're talking about joy here, we're not talking about an artificial la di da joy. It's what is your core essence. And if you need help finding that core essence, any one of us, me, Chris, or Felicia, are here to help you in that. I personally distinctly help people come into their light, distinctly come and live their joy. And so I'd love to talk to you, have a discovery call, and be able to give you some insights. And then if you choose to work with me as a coach or a healing session or a healing package, you can find your joy. You can find your very inherent, innate, effortless joy that's effervescent that you can attune to, especially in these times of sadness. So that's your bridge, y'all, is to be your joy, and especially in these times of sadness. So my call to you is to comment below the video. Let me know how that is going for you and any challenges you may have. And then there's going to be a poll on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify, check out the poll and let us know how this is going for you. If you're on YouTube, I want you to subscribe and like so that you can know when our next episodes are up. We release a weekly episode all centered around being in your joy, especially in these times of sadness. So if this is your jam, keep spreading the word. Let's keep spreading the joy out in the world. Until then, my friends, here's to your joy.